After spending a little bit over a week testing out both Luocha and Yukong in various team comps, I've come to the conclusion that everyone has been building these characters wrong. And not just them, I mean supports in general. Now obviously this doesn't apply to you, Mr. I do everything perfectly. But for the rest of us human beings, I like to imagine we have a little trial and error in our blood. To further explain what I mean without taking a joke too far, I am also at fault for promoting this type of building behavior. That's not a word, but we're gonna say that it is. Maybe it wasn't necessarily wrong when I advocated for it then, and it's possible that it isn't wrong now. But I've done 2 separate tests so far and came up with some decent conclusions as to why I feel the way I do. Let me break down why I believe all of us have been building our support characters the wrong way. Since Luocha is the current banner character, I'll use him as the first example. When he initially released, I was hard on the concept that Luocha only cared for a 4-piece musketeer or 2-piece musketeer and passerby. It's not bad by any means, so don't misinterpret me here, but what kills me are these dumb mechanics in the later half of MOC. The weird Soulsborne player in me secretly loves this stuff because it presents this odd challenge that I can't easily pay my way out of. Yet at the same time, I can't actively control my chances of defeating it or not. This guy right here, the Space Demon Centaur thing. You know when he loads up that bow shot? Yeah, GG's bro. Damn near a guaranteed entangle, and it's hitting for 2k plus damage. Then right after that is the brainless ice loser and his fake Dami Mommy telling him when and how to freeze your entire team. This whole time I've been building supports to do damage, bro. Fuck damage. Out of all the characters on the team, I need my supports to not die, or at the very least don't get CC'd to oblivion. To make matters worse, effect resistance is another stat that seems to rarely drop. We're sleeping on it, and when I do get it, over half my rolls land into effect resistance. This is by far the most underrated stat right now, and it's crazy how none of us have put as strong of an emphasis on this on a mass scale. I mean, like all YouTuber mass scale. If we just had that whole debacle about Silverwolf needing over 100% effect hit rate to net a guaranteed anything on the higher level enemies, what in the hell kept us from thinking the same would apply, but in reverse? Some characters have a guaranteed domain expansion hit, like Savrog, but you kind of know it's coming. The horse guy doesn't actually have a guarantee, and I don't think a lot of us know that. The main problem is that all of us are just running around with negative 40% effect resistance, so he gets away with whatever CC he wants for free. I wish the game natively told us this information, but for now, I'll use the information from the Honkai Star Rail wiki. From level 60 to 100, Void Ranger has somewhere between 8 to 40% effect hit rate respectively. And I didn't even know the actual enemies had an effect hit rate stat, but they do. We just don't see it in game. The big bow shot where he pulls his bow back and then he fires it off, that's called end of bow, and it reads as follows. Deals massive quantum damage of 800% of his attack to a single target with a high chance to inflict entanglement. The entanglement causing 100% action delay and 80% delay damage per stack. Literally Silverwolf, but way stronger. So just for demonstrative purposes, let's imagine that you are the enemy Japard. I've adjusted all the stats I'm aware of to match Void Ranger. And if you, the Japard, only had, let's do 35% effect hit resistance, that now turns the guaranteed entanglement shot to 72% chance to hit. Now, if I turn this into 50%, which at the moment in time of me recording this, my Luocha has somewhere around 50% effect resistance. This now changes Void Ranger's shot to 56%. He has a 50-50 chance to entangle me. At this point, we're flipping a coin and testing whose willpower is stronger. All I'm saying is that in theory, this is exactly how this should work. Otherwise, effect resistance just doesn't need to be in the game at all. I find it incredibly hard to believe that a game like Honkai Star Rail, one that we've all actively seen theory crafters coming up with new discoveries every week, would have a stat in the game that is absolutely useless. Circling back to my Luocha, I've since changed his build temporarily from some odd offensive healer with a little bit of bulk into a much tankier build with at least 50% effect resistance. Now this might not be an issue if you unlock his final trace, which is Through the Valley, because it gives you 70% control resistance or crowd control debuff resistance. But for whatever reason, I keep getting told that this does not add into his own natural effect resistance in the stats screen here. How the math works for that, I'm not entirely too sure. I'd appreciate if anyone in the comments could let me know or let us know how this works, but as of right now, I care more about my Luocha performing strong heals and taking more than 3 hits before getting clapped. With the introduction of both Luocha and Yukong, we've seen a shakeup in which teams are easily conquering MOC that weren't on the radar before. Clara plus Luocha has been destroying anything in its path, regardless of if it's weak to them or not. And if you add Yukong into the mix, well, she's actually my next subject I want to talk about. Right now, I have a love-hate relationship with this character. She's a great character, but at the same time, she's been giving me the second most trouble out of my entire account. It's either I'm gonna build her to do some insane damage for a team buffing unit, but die in 1 hit, or I'm gonna build her for no damage so that she could actually survive well enough to continue buffing the team. Right now, you guys can see my light cones. So far, I've gone from changing Yukong from the Meshing Cogs, Car of the Moon, and Memories of the Past. I've even tried Bronya's own signature light cone, and none of them really fit besides Memory for me. But that comes with a cost of me having to focus on the break effect, which, and to be honest, it's not really a bad thing. I prefer her with break effect. But again, these are different stats that kind of attest to what I'm talking about. My initial thought process was to pump her with so much speed that she would cycle in between my DPS units, but that's not really as easy as I thought it was going to be. And there's so many other outside influence that come to speed, turn order, action cycle, slowing down the enemy, that it becomes really problematic for me to try and only control the 4 units on my team. That's an entirely different video though. In order to not die though, a lot of my purpose or a lot of my focus has been repurposing a lot of relics that I otherwise thought were useless. These are going to be things like the Wuthering Snow set or the Knight of Purity Palace set, my typical tank or defensive units. I don't know why I said units, relics. Now I don't know why this didn't click with me initially. Maybe it was the Genshin player in me, but like, you know how there's a 1-to-2 crit ratio that we all want to achieve for our DPS units? Okay, so Star Rail is a different game. I really believe there's also the same thing, but for the defensive stats, especially when so many of you players are trying to force hyper offense into your accounts and you only have 2 5-stars. Now, without getting super deep into the math of it, there has to be a certain point in the numbers where having 5k HP and 2 defense doesn't actually help you. If I had to take a stab in the dark, you'd probably also want a 2-to-1 or even a 3-to-1 ratio from HP to defense. This is very similar to Pokemon VGC. There needs to be a numerical balancing of which stats matter. So in Pokemon, for instance, having a certain amount of effort values or HP, there's a number, there's a diminishing value, and there's a certain number where it bumps up more than 1 stat or more than 2 stats. But there's a point where you can't keep adding effort values into that stat and then getting a return from it. When I'm doing my calcs for Pokemon and I have, I don't know, 300 HP, but my defense is 9, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't do anything for me unless the natural stats of that character are so strong that the 9 defense makes the regular stat of defense somewhere like 150. And that creates the 1-to-2 ratio or the 3-to-1 ratio, whatever the case may be. I feel like Star Rail being an RPG, Pokemon being an RPG, I'm real positive this is where we need to be going for our support characters and not Musketeer all the way or whatever other offensive stats or offensive relics we have all the way. Again, I have not tested this math in my calculators. I've just performed these in game. So I've played with Luocha, full Musketeer set, no defensive stats or a little bit of defensive stats. And then I've changed it so he has a lot of effect resistance, over 1000 defense, almost 4k HP, and tried to make it work from there. I do, however, actually want to get with some other theory crafters and figure this out. So if you're interested, please hit me up, leave it in the comments, come to the Discord, hit me up on Twitter. I don't care how you do it, just do it. I'm sure eventually I'm going to get to a point where I have a bunch of stats and relics and I can just hand them off to whatever characters I want. But as of right now, and those of you who are in this weekend stream can attest to this, my account does not have the greatest relic luck. To be completely honest though, I love the frick out of this. Every week I've learned something new about the game, or I've had a complete 180 change in my opinions about something that I had week 1 or even from the beta. This is the type of stuff that really makes me enjoy and love an RPG, especially one that's on a live service. If I can constantly be shown a new reason why this should be done this way or that should be done another way, then I'm basically sold. Yes, there are some minor flaws, of course, that'll get ironed out or should get ironed out in the immediate future. But for now we'll be all right. Moral of the story is to hold on to the lesser valued pieces with the effect resistance and defense percentages, even the HPs. You may not need them now, but I'm willing to bet they'll make a drastic difference once you actually get there. That could be late game MOC, that could be MOC 6 so that you could progress to 7, or you could be similar to me where you know that you'll clap MOC 9 and 10, you just gotta get through MOC 8. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, do feel free to leave a like and comment down below. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, try hitting that subscribe button and maybe follow your boy on Twitch. I don't know, I want that purple check mark so I can flex on the hose. Why did I say on the hose? I was not supposed to say on the hose.